Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I am going to be talking about domestic violence and the cycle of power and control. So if you have any friends or family that maybe needs to hear this, go ahead and take the time to invite them now. We're going to be talking about domestic violence. And, this was my whole original plan as far as my platforms and my books. And the cycle of power and control is so intensely important and needs to be understood. And so I wanted to go over that with you. A lot of people do the cycle of violence, which is like 3 parts. But this is the cycle of power and control, which is a lot more in depth. And power and control is the middle ground of this side being abuse and this side just being bad behavior. And I'll explain that a little more when a little more people come on, if they do. I know it's always in the middle of the day when I do this, and that's because my little one's at school. I've been sick. My eyes all fucked up, so I'm sorry for the sniffles and the coughing and my one red eye. But I hope everyone's doing okay, and so my goal for this is to just bring awareness to people who need it, and to show them something I didn't know when I was abused. I was abused by a psychopath, an actual psychopath who killed our daughter. It was his daughter too. I was with him for 7 years, and it was the most unreal 7 years of my life. Like, I feel like it was a different lifetime. I feel like I was a different person. Like I've lived 1,000 lives, but yet it's still with me. I've been letting it go. But this is the cycle of power and control, and I'm going to be showing you this again and holding it up for if anyone who wants to screenshot it. Like I said, so if you are in a relationship that is, you guys fight all the time, you argue all the time, whatever. You are in an abusive relationship if your partner's goal is to have power and control over you. You're in a relationship with someone with bad behavior if it has nothing to do with power and control and they're just assholes. So that's really what I wanted to put out there for you, is the power and control. That is the biggest part. I'm going to take a minute to invite some people to see if I can get anybody on. So I'm doing a talk today on violence, and I'm going to be talking about the cycle of power and control. And I would love it if you guys would invite people who need to hear this. Or if you do, I am so glad you're here, because it's no joke. I was in an abusive relationship for 7 years, and he was a psychopath, a clinically diagnosed psychopath, And it feels like I wasn't even that person. Like it was that unimaginable. Okay, I'm having a problem here. Hold on. I'm just going to invite these people and then I'm going to go start talking because I'm not paying attention to what I'm saying. Okay. So, the cycle of power and control when referring to domestic violence. Domestic violence is all about power and control. It's not about bad behavior. It's not about being a dick. It's not about being a bitch. It's about power and control. It's about another person needing to have power and control over another person. And I'm really cold. That's why I'm wrapped up in my blanket. This is going to be posted on my YouTube channel, which is also called Felonies and Poppy Seeds, because on TikTok, the lives go away and I like to repost them on my YouTube so that people can comment and I can see them. You know, the comments don't go away because I want to be able to be there for someone who has watched this and been through it or is living through it and wants some advice. And just so you guys know, I am an advocate and I am certified in mental health, domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, and a lot more. I worked for drug and alcohol, rehabilitation inpatient center for several years. So I've done a lot of work around like coping and I've taught DBT. So I have a lot of knowledge to be sharing this with you. And I just wanted you to know that before I started yapping. So the domestic violence cycle of power and control. Like I said, I'm going to bring this up several times. So if you guys want to screenshot it, you can. So the cycle of violence has three things. It's like tension building, and then once the tension is built, that's when the abuser will come in and hurt the victim. And then the third part of the cycle is the honeymoon phase, the abuser apologizing, bringing flowers, saying I love you, all the things that the victim is so starved for that she believes. So, and if there's any time that you cannot hear me or the connection gets lost, please let me know. Because it's really hard for me to see. I have one contact in this eye. I can't see out of it all. So I'm having some issues. Okay, so I was in an abusive relationship with a clinically diagnosed psychopath for 7 years. He killed our child. He also killed our other child that wasn't born yet. Poppy, she was 1.5 and amazing and beautiful. And she is no longer with us. And then Ozzy, I had to have taken out before term because of the abuse that my body endured. And because of all of that, me and my 2 daughters watched him kill my daughter Poppy. And I just lost my oldest daughter this year from coping using drugs from the traumatic life that we lived. So my abuser truly, truly took us all out, like he promised he would. And so I'm here to tell you that if you are in a relationship with someone that is abusing you, especially to the degree that I was abused, I mean, physically choking me till I passed out daily, multiple times. I've got cracks in my skull. I mean, hardcore every day for 7 years. Things do happen. Those threats of they're going to kill you, they will happen. And in my case, I made it out alive, but 3 of my kids didn't. So I just, it's easy to think it won't happen to me, but it will. Abusers don't get better. Their abuse doesn't get lighter. It gets worse as the more they see that they can get away with, the harder they go. So like I said, I'm here to tell you that it will and does end in death in one way or another, or serious charges or whatever. But mine ended in 3 deaths, and I'm the one left behind. Me and my daughter Holly are left behind with losing all of my kids. So it's a serious fucking thing, and I need to get through this cycle of power and control before I have to go pick up my little one. So if you have a friend or a family member, first, really quick, I want to say that is in a relationship like this, give them love and support, and help them with a safety plan. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do safety plans on this one, but I will do one after. If you are the type of person that's like, you're the one that's not leaving, that's victim shaming, and that doesn't help them, because the victims already have so much guilt and so much no self-worth, no self-love, no anything. So when the people that they can go to for help are also shaming them, they're not going to go to that person for help. And then they're going to end up like me, either someone dying or them dying themselves. And it's just that serious. So you need to love and support your friends and family who are in a relationship as a victim. Don't condone it, but love and support them. And you could be the one that saves their lives, honestly. Honestly, if you are the one that's open to them coming to you to tell you all the things that if they tell anyone else, that other people are going to roll their eyes and say, then why don't you fucking leave? They're going to die in that relationship. So that's why it's important to be that person. So back to power and control. Power and control is what defines domestic violence. Like I said at the very beginning, bad behavior is different than abuse. Someone being an asshole, someone being a bitch, yelling, screaming, and all that, that's bad behavior. It's just bad behavior, and you need to figure your shit out. But if there's one of you in the relationship that is looking to have power and control over someone, that is where you are in a domestic violent relationship, an abusive relationship. And usually they will look for people like me, empaths, helpers, caretakers, people who give everything they have to help people, because they always have a sob story. And then you automatically want to help them, right? Mine my abuser's sob story was he was going through a divorce, his wife cheated on him and took his kids and all these things, and I immediately fell for him and wanted to help him and mend his broken heart and be that woman, you know. And in all reality, she left him because he had been abusing her. You know, so you've got to really, you know, also background checks. There is nothing wrong with background checks when you have met someone new. If I would have done that, I would have seen all of his charges that are horrific: harassment, assault, rape, so many. So on that note, so that I can get this out before I have to get off of here, if this sounds familiar to you in your own personal relationship or a friend or family, then obviously you need to get some help. And I also have some resources and stuff for that. So in the cycle of power and control, number one, your partner is using coercion and threats. So one example that my partner always did was he would get a gun out, hold it up to his head, and say he was going to kill himself in front of me and the kids. If I left, or if I was going to do anything that he didn't agree with. And I believed him. He'd point the gun at me, he'd point the gun at himself. You know, it was like, who's it going to be? And he threatened if I left that he would take me to court and take my children from me. And I believed that because I believed I was crazy, because I did not understand what was happening in this relationship at all. Like, I was kind, I was loving, I did everything. I took care of the 2 kids that got taken from him that didn't, and my own 2. And I did work, and I did everything right, you know, and I was ugly, I was a cunt, nobody would ever want me, I wasn't worthy of anything, I was only worthy of being hurt, beat, raped, and told what I was. And when that happens to you every day for 7 years, or even 1 year, or even 6 months, you're fucked. You know, it fucks you. You know, this is 15 years later for me, and I still have his voice in my head. You know, I still have it there. So coercion and threats is one of them. Number 2 is, I can't read my own writing. Oh, intimidation. So intimidating her, scaring her by using like looks and gestures. Like if you're around people or in public, you know that look that they give you, that you know you're gonna fucking get it when you get home. Punching holes in the wall, throwing shit around, just scaring your partner. If you are with someone who is violent, not just with you, but like, you know, punching holes in the wall, like I said, things like that, that is a huge sign, a huge red flag. If they can't control themselves from punching a fucking hole in the wall like a little fucking baby, that is a get out sign. A get out sign. 3 is using emotional abuse, putting the victim down, name calling, gaslighting, making the victim believe they are crazy, and guilt tripping. You know, mine would beat the shit out of me and then cry and say he didn't know what happened, and he must have blacked out, or he must have taken the wrong medicine or whatever, and then he would sob on my lap while I was bleeding and beaten and shaking, and I would like make him feel better for beating me. So that's gaslighting and emotional abuse at its highest. I was gaslighted to the point to where he would punch me in the face. I would have a black fucking eye. And he would ask me where I got my black eye. And after a few years, I started wondering, am I really that crazy? What the fuck is going on? Like, he gave me the black eye, but did he? Like, he had me so confused with so many different stories and so many different lies that I didn't know up from down. And I stayed that way up until about a year ago. So many years, over 20 years, I was confused and living in a gaslighted world where I was second guessing every decision I made, everything I said, everything I did. Because I didn't even know that my abuser gave me a black eye, but my abuser gave me a black eye. I was that unsure of myself. Number 4 is isolation. Controlling what the victim does, where the victim goes, who the victim sees, and they play it off as jealousy. Oh, my ex-wife cheated on me all the time. I'm really insecure. I would just feel so much better if you were with me all the time. Mine started talking bad about how my family and making me feel like my family didn't love me. And they do that with your friends, your family, and anybody. Your mom's such a bitch. She wouldn't watch your kids for you, or she wouldn't do this for you. And making you start thinking those ways. They make you start thinking the same way that they want you to think. And then you are isolated. And then you are alone with your abuser and your children, and you have no one to call. And it's a very scary place to be. Number 5 is minimizing, making you feel stupid for crying or shaking or trembling after he hurt you or she. And even, like I said earlier, denying that they hurt you at all. Saying things like, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't have to hurt you. It's all guilt. It's all your fault. It's all blame. It's if any of this sounds familiar at all on any level, you are being abused. Number 6, and this one was huge for me, obviously, using your children. Threatening to call CPS because you're a crazy bitch, right? Threatening to call CPS and get your children taken away. And you believe that at that point because you feel crazy because you're so gaslighted you don't know what's happening. So when you get you get threatened to have your children taken, you listen and you believe them. And mine kidnapped my little one multiple times before she was killed. And so and they're all charmers, such charmers that I knew if we sat in the courtroom, I would be crying, shaking, trembling, fumbling around with my words, and he would be smooth and sure of himself, and I believed he would get my children. Using, and this is if the abuser is a man, and I am not here to tell you that abusers are all men. Abusers are anyone. But this one power and control wheel that I looked up used male privilege. He's the master of the castle, and he's he's in charge of the whole relationship. He makes up all the rules. He makes all the plans. He does all the things. And that can go for any gender. It doesn't have to be male. Economic abuse. Not allowing her to work. Not giving her access to money. Not allowing her to have her own money. Withholding allowance from her if she misbehaves. That was a big one. Because then you don't have a safety plan for yourself. If something horrific were to happen, or you do have the chance to leave, you have no money. A lot of times they will take your driver's license, they will take your birth certificate, you know, all of those kinds of things, to where if you did leave, it would be so fucking hard for you that you're just so beat down. It's almost, it makes it to where you can't leave. When I was working and had my caseload, you know, we would safety plan with people who were still in the relationship. These people that we hadn't helped get out yet because it wasn't safe to. And we would have them slowly, as they could, start giving their mom their driver's license, or giving their mom their birth certificate, you know, $1 here and there, whatever they had, just as they could, so that when the time came that they could escape, they had all those documents, you know, and that's where not victim shaming comes in. If my mom were to have been one of the people that victim shamed, I wouldn't have been able to go to her. You know, there was a point where I was taking pictures of my bruises and my black eyes and sending them to her, and she was keeping them in a file for me and writing down things that happened for me, you know, and so that was, you know, me doing that blindly after so many fucking years with this motherfucker. You know, there's things like that. And then there's always a crisis line. There's always a domestic violence crisis line. And once I go get my daughter and get her settled, I'll put, like I said, this is going to go on YouTube because on TikTok they disappear. This is going to go on Felonies and Poppy Seeds on YouTube, and on that I will be putting references and numbers and helplines and all of the things, and also how to safety plan. You know, you can safety plan with victims who have already left and are afraid of their abuser showing up or whatever that could look like. You can safety plan with a victim who is still in the home with the abuser, and how to have them be careful. Like we used to teach victims, you know, don't give in to the cycle. Don't give in to him intimidating you, manipulating you, using emotional abuse. You know, just go along with it. You know, he's not going to fall for it. He's still going to get pissed, but just be as safe and careful as you can. Like, I never fought back. I never fought back verbally or physically. I was so frightened of my abuser. But I know there's a lot of people that do, you know, and in my eyes, from my experience, I would have just died if I would have fought back. There was one time I tried to fight back and it failed, and it's in my book, and I just got hurt worse, you know, and so it's a scary thing. But I also wanted to let you know that abuse on this level is planned out, and it's purposeful. And when I found that out after my daughter was already buried, and my dad had picked me up, and I was finally able to leave, I went and I got a job after a little bit of time at an advocacy center, and during my training, I was taught that this is like a fantasy. It is a planned out thing, like the poking at you, the threatening to kill themselves, the things like that. That is them. So they have, let me see if I can word this better. So they have a whole plan, a whole cycle of a plan planned out in their head on how they're going to get to hurt you. Whether it's sexual assault or physical abuse or both, but it is all very purposeful. So they fantasize about how they can get you to react to something they're doing to you so that they can use that reaction against you, and then they can fulfill their fantasy of beating you up in whatever their get down is. My abuser's get down was choking me. I was choked so many times and woke up not knowing where I was. Like, that was his thing. All through both of my pregnancies, he did that. He also would slam my head against the walls, the bed, headboard, the floors, concrete, you know, and it was all planned out. Each time he did that, it was planned out. And when I found that out, my heart was so fucking shattered that I had spent 7 years trying to help this human who acted like he was a hurt and you know, abused child, which he wasn't, and all these things, just to find out that it wasn't even that he was just fucked up. It was that he was fantasizing about hurting me. And it made me sick. It made me sick to my stomach. And that's why I decided to become an advocate, because I was so alone. I have 3 dead children from being abused. You know, he promised me several things. One of them was if I left him, he would take my children, he would cut my body up into 1,000,000 pieces and bury them all over so that no one would ever be able to find them all. Nobody would ever be able to put me to rest. My kids would never know what happened to me. And I believe, you know, you believe that, right? You have to believe that, because he did kill. It just wasn't me. You know, and coming out of a relationship like that, when you've been victim shamed the whole time, and your daughter's the one that dies, is just unexplainable, really. You know, I really can't explain to you what that feels like, what it's like living with that. You know, I blamed myself for so long, and I still do sometimes. I try not to, but had I left, she would be alive. You know, my mind just goes through all the things. Had I left, they would all 3 fucking be alive. But I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave. And that's because he had me so brainwashed that I was too scared. So that is the so that, like I said, okay, so bottom line, power and control. If there is power and control in the relationship, if it is not even, if you don't both have bad behavior, if one of you has bad behavior, that's bullshit. If both of you have bad behavior, you guys just need to get your shit together. If one of you has power and control over the other one, that is straight up abuse. That is their goal. That is their point. That's everything. So not everyone makes it out alive. And it's just so important, and I'm going to share this message for the rest of my life. Poppy was killed by him on my oldest daughter's 13th birthday, and she died just this year from fentanyl overdose because of coping, because she never got better from the trauma. And it just rings in my ears, him having me by the neck and whispering in my ear, I'm gonna ruin your life, you know, and 3 kids later, he has. But I'm healing, I'm picking myself up, I'm here for some reason, and I have 2 children alive still, and I'm not gonna let him take any of us else down, any of us at all. You know, I had been saying, you know, who's next? But then I realized I was putting that vibe out in the universe, and I'm unwilling to do that anymore. But I know that after Poppy died, my fear of another child dying was so great, and another child died.
So I try to stay away from that fear and that blame. But I had left him the week before Poppy died. And that's what is the hardest thing for me to sit with. We were all safe, me and my 3 girls, at my mom's house. And he did the honeymoon phase. You know, I had been starved for 7 years of, change or go to counseling or do all this or do all that. Because if you take my advice and take my truths, my training and my experience, that this is thought out, planned out, and fantasized about, where is the getting better coming from? When do they get better? They don't, because this is what they choose. This is what they want. This is how they want to be. So, power and control is what makes an abuser different than just someone being a fucking dick. Power and control. Controlling what you do, controlling how you feel, controlling what you know to be true, confusing you. All those kinds of things are what makes an abuser. And it's intentional. And they use tactics. And they plan it out. And they do all the things. And if you are in an abusive relationship, you are very welcome to reach out to me in DMs, so that you're careful that nobody sees it. And then tonight, this will be downloaded permanently on my YouTube, so that's where people can come and make comments. Once I'm done with this, all of the comments disappear. So I won't be able to reach out or see if anybody needed anything. But my story is really brutal. And I just got a publisher and an editor, and I'm getting ready to send all the different parts of my book. And it is raw. It is raw and it is real. I talk about all the things that he did to me. And I talk about all the things that I did after. And all my coping and my drug abuse afterwards. And my hurting and letting down my older girls who needed me more than ever. He fucked us up. He fucked all of us up. And he's on the extreme side of abusers from, what I saw as an advocate. There were really bad cases, but I can't say it was a certain group of people that had those bad cases like mine. But most of them were, oh, he pushed me to the ground or, screamed or whatever. And those things are awful. They are. They really are. Because, like I said, as they see what you will allow them to do or what you will put up with, they will push more and more. And that is not victim shaming, because I allowed it because I was so fucking confused. I did not understand what was going on. I didn't even know I was being abused. And I just thought something was wrong with me. Because I kept thinking, the whole time, I'm so nice to him. I'm taking care of all the kids. I'm keeping the house clean. I'm giving him sex whenever he asks for it. And, what in the fuck is wrong with me to where someone hates me so much that they want to hurt me? Every day, they want to hurt me physically, and they want to fuck my mind up. What is so wrong with me that someone wants to do that to me? And that's what I lived by for years. That it was me. That something was wrong with me. And there wasn't. He was a sick, sadistic motherfucker. And he chose to do this. And he fantasized about it. And he planned it out. And it wasn't my fault. And it's not your fault. I've got to go get my little one off the bus. So I will, I'd like to do a part 2. I want to talk about other parts of this. This was just the cycle of power and control, which is a big deal. But I want to talk about more things. There's so much more. So thank you guys for being here today. And I think I'll try to go on tonight and get a little bit more personal with my personal story to show you what it really looks like not just a textbook of, you know, the cycles and all the information, but what really goes on behind closed doors. You know, what really happens. And the guilt and looking at your kids and knowing that they know and they listen and they hear and they're afraid, and just the whole awful, ugly fucking truth of being a victim of domestic violence and sexual assault. So hopefully that happens tonight. And I'll let you know if not. But it's going to either be tonight or tomorrow, because I have a lot more to say. Once I get started on these things, I can go on forever. And if I can start it tonight around 7, I think I'll have a lot more people that might need to hear this come on. I know a lot of people are working right now. So anyways, I will be back. And this will be on YouTube on Felonies and Poppy Seeds, and it will be on Facebook on Felonies and Poppy Seeds, so that you can go through and rewatch it or save it for a friend or a family member, or find it and message me if you need to. And again, if you have questions about victim shaming or how to support a friend or family member that's being abused, please ask, because I have a lot to talk about on that. That can make or break the deal. That can save someone's life or take someone's life. You know, you being that person for them. So that's super important. I gotta go, so she's not wondering where the hell I am. I will see you guys tonight or a little bit later, and we will talk more on domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, and power and control, and victim shaming, and all of the things that are real. And the fact that not everyone makes it out alive.